In this video, I will show you how we can reuse existing animations for other characters by swapping the animation sprites thanks to the new 2D animation package. Hi, I'm Peter and welcome to Sunny Valley Studio Tutorials. When making 2D games, we usually end up with sprite sheets that are exactly the same, but only the representing sprites are different. The number of keyframes for each animation is the same, so obvious choice would be to reuse the existing animation that we have in our project to drive both characters in your game. Now I have a character that contains simply rigid body and capsule collider. Sprite object that is a child of it contains the animator and sprite renderer, and it uses the animator controller and two animations to make this appearance that our character is animated. Now the old way to create a new animation for the second character, so we have some second character here, would be to go to our animations, right click, create animation override controller. That would override our original animation controller, and next we would have to duplicate those two clips and open the animation panel and swap the sprites here, so it is a lot of work. But instead, now we can go to our package manager, select Unity registry and find the 2D animation package. If we select to install it, or if you use the 2D template for Unity, it should come with this 2D animation. I'm using Unity 2021.2, so this comes with this 2D animation package. If you install it, now we do not have the need to use the new animation override controller, but instead what we can do is we can simply reuse those the same animations by simply swapping the sprites in the animation clip using a custom script called Sprite Resolver. Now it is a bit more work than it sounds, so let's stop the game and I will simply select my character, go to animation panel. If you want to open it window, select animation, and you need to have animator and animation open. I will delete the current sprites that I have for my animations, and as you can see, we have those events that simply play the audio for the footstep. And this is one more issue, that using the old way of using animation controller override made us add those again to the duplicate animation clips. So now instead what we can do is go to our assets, and we need to select right click, create. Let's select a new folder, let's call it Sprite Library, because to set up our animations using the new way we need to right click, create, select 2D, and we need to select Sprite Library asset. Let's call it character 1. Now I know that I want to use two animations from my sprite sheet. This will be the idle animation and the run animation. Of course you can use more. In any case, you need to go to your character_1 sprite library, and in the inspector you will see that it contains the main library field. This field allows us, just like we did with animation controller override, to assign the default template of our animations. We are creating one right now, so we are not going to assign this. This will be our main library, this character_1. Now we have below a list is empty and a plus icon. Let's click it 2 times because I want to add idle and run animation. We have 2 categories appearing. Those will be our sprites representing each animation. So I will call the first category idle and the second one walk. Now since this is an asset, we need to click apply to apply the changes to it. Now make sure that you use this lock icon if you want to work with this sprite library. And I'm going to go to my sprite sheet, which is the light bandit, and if I enlarge those sprites, I will see that 4 sprites represent my idle animation. I will drag them to my category idle, and I will select the remaining ones to represent my walk animation. This will be the second one. And instead of assigning those sprites to our animation clip, we need to assign them to our sprite library asset. Now let's click apply and let's unlock this inspector. Now if you want to create the sprite library for your second character, all you would need to do is duplicate this library, so Ctrl D. Let's call it character 2, and instead of using what we have here, we are going to assign as the main library. Let's click it, assign character 1, and as you will see, this has assigned the same sprites to your categories, but now we cannot really edit those categories. We can add new, but those needs to be provided. So we are going to again lock this asset, go to our sprite sheet, and I will select the second sprite sheet this time, and I will enlarge this, and all I need to do is assign those sprites. Now the problem is that we need to assign them one by one, because if we try to drag them here, we are going to see that only the first one was assigned. So we need to drag those sprites one by one into those fields. Let me speed up the process. Okay, so now all my sprites are assigned, and basically this is how we are going to reuse our sprites. We need to create a second sprite library. Make sure that you apply those changes and unlock it, and we are going to simply swap those sprite library assets instead of swapping the animation clips. But how are we going to use those sprite libraries? Well, we need to select our character, the sprite object which contains the animator and the sprite renderer, and here we are going to add two components. First one will be sprite library, and this comes with the 2D animation package, and as you can see, we can assign here the sprite library asset. Second component needs to be sprite resolver, and this is again another component that comes with the package. If we now select our sprite library, so let me minimize the other components, let's select the sprite library assets, and let's select character 1. We are going to see all the categories, so all the animations that we have assigned to our sprite library asset. Now in our sprite resolver, we can select the category, and we will see the same sprites appearing here. Now this is important because now we need to use those sprites in our animation clip. So again, make sure that you select in the hierarchy your sprite, make sure that you open your animation window, and make sure that you see your scene view, because here we are going to have a preview of our animation. Now to make it easier for you to follow, I will select the inspector, right click, properties. This will open me a new window for the properties of the sprite. I will dock it somewhere here, and this will be much easier for us to see on the same screen what is going on. So here we have our sprite, so the properties of our sprite object, and one of those is the sprite resolver. Now I will select the character 1 idle old animation, so my animation that I have created earlier, and this is empty animation. Now first thing that we will need to do is select add property, and we will have the sprite resolver. Right click on this and add properties. This will add all the properties to this of this sprite resolver. Now the most important thing is the hash sprite key. Now, as I believe that this is a constant value, and this sprite key is very important. Now I'm going to delete the last keys that we have on position 1 if you need to scroll away from this timeline. And now we are going to select the record using this red dot, and we need to select category idle because this is the idle animation, and I'm going to select the first sprite, move to the next keyframe on our timeline, and I will select the second sprite. I will move to the next keyframe, third sprite, and the fourth sprite, and I will need to have again the first sprite for my animation to loop properly. Now if we have this, we can stop recording, and we will see that our character is now being animated. But if we try pressing play, we will see that nothing really happens. What's going on? Well, this is because of the sprite key value. So the problem is that our animation is interpolating the values in between those frames. So to prevent this, we need to select all of those frames, right click, and we need to select broken so that there is no connection between those points. And again, right click, both tangents, and select constant. So this will ensure that all of those values stay constant. So this way, if we press play, we are going to see that our character is animated. Now I will simply drag this animation, all the frames of this animation to 0.50, since this is what I see to be looking pretty good in my animation. And as you will see in the sprite resolver, the sprites will be selected based on what we have assigned, and this way our sprite library will affect the animation clip. So basically this is it. We can select the second animation, and again, to perform all of this assignment, we need to ensure that we have add property, sprite resolver, right click, add properties, and I will delete the last frame. And now I will select record, and we need to select in the categories of the sprite resolver the walk animation. And let me speed up the process, because basically this will be the same. I will assign first frame, the second frame, and so on. And at the end, I will again need to assign the first frame. And now if I pause it, And again, we are going to see the animation being played when I slide, but when we press play, nothing will happen. And again, I think that now our events are blocking the animation. So what I will do is delete this event. Okay, so now if we again select all of those keys, right click, and we need to select the broken, and right click both tangents and select constant. So as you can see, this is a lot of work, but again, this is the only initial preset that we need to do to our animation clips. Later on, all we need to do is create a new sprite library asset. So if I press play, we're going to see our animation. I will select it and I will drag it about 40, I think. Let's see. Okay, and I will need to assign the event, and now this will be my animation. So I'm going to close this window of the sprite. I can go to the game view. Of course, in my animator, I have those two animations connected using a condition that the direction X float value need to be greater than 1 to go to the run and less than 1 to go to the idle. So now if I press play, you will see in the game window that we can work with our animations, and they are, if we select our sprite, if we go to the inspector, you will see that our animations are shown in the sprite resolver. Great. If I select the sprite library and select the second sprite library that we have created, in the game view you will see that our character is the second type of character. If we press play, it will work exactly the same, and even the events that are playing the step sound are playing correctly. So what we can do is create a prefab out of this. Let's duplicate this, let's select it, select the sprite. I will assign the sprite library to the first character. I will drag this character a bit away. And now if we press play, we will see that both characters are playing exactly the same animation and they are animated correctly. Great! So this is how you would use the new animation package. You will need to create your sprite library. Next, create sprite library and sprite resolver components on your object that contains the animator, and then assign to your animation clips those sprites from your sprite resolver. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this gave you some idea of how you can work with the new 2D animation package. If you want to learn more about making 2D games in Unity, check out my video courses, the link will be in the description, or check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Take care!